Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. It's great to be back, and thank you to everybody who is a new subscriber. Welcome to the Suburban Oasis channel. My name is Soleil and I garden in mid-Michigan, and we're in a zone 5B. So it's the end of May, which means that we're pushing into June, and that means there's a ton of growth probably in your garden going on. It means that everything's just getting like out of control, and it's an important time to take a minute and look around and see what needs to be pruned. So I've got some great tools with me today. I have my secateurs. These are my Felco number 2s. I've got some hedge clippers. These are just a really nice, small, lightweight, I think these are Fiskars, pretty sure. And then I've got some other Fiskars that are right here, and these are a titanium lopper, and these help with some bigger branches. So we're going to go around and we're going to see what needs to be pruned today, and I'm going to show you some different tips and tricks on how to do different types of shrubs and how to ensure that you're keeping things under control and shaping things the way that you want them. Let's go. So the first shrub that we're going to prune today is a forsythia. This one is a show-off starlet, and it is a proven winners, and it is supposed to stay 2 feet by 2 feet, at least right around there. You never know how big they're actually going to get, and it seems like everything I put in my garden always gets bigger than it says. So we're going to give this one a trim back. This one blooms on all of the wood from the top to the bottom, but I want to keep this one nice and compact because it's in the front of my border. So we're just going to give it a nice hedge pruning with these, and I like to use my hedge pruners upside down. Most people use them this way, but I find it much more ergonomic to do this way because it also follows the curve of the bush. So here we go. I'm just taking this back enough to ensure that we have a nice, bushy, compact, round shrub. You can make it any shape that you want. I'm keeping it in the shape that it was growing because I believe it will continue to grow on that way really well. Not taking a ton off, making sure that there's a little bit of new growth on it. And that looks like that should do it. So we're all done with this one. Let's do another. So now we're going to prune the Japanese maple, and I'm going to be using my secateurs, and that's because I want to do some really specific pruning for shape, not necessarily for size right now. So let's get in real close and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for any branches that are crossing in here, any that are dead, which I already took off, so I don't have to worry about that. And then in addition to that, like I said, I'm going to be shaping this. And what I want to do right now is I want to limit up a little bit so that I can let the light into the plants that are below it. And then I want some of these really strong upright branches to be able to continue to grow up. And then I'm going to have them going out. So we really want to keep these strong 1, 2, 3, 4 branches here for sure, but we're going to trim out some of this undergrowth. So I'm just going to follow this one all the way back to the base. And then you can see there's lots of little tiny branches in here that aren't doing much of anything, and I'm just going to clean those up. So this is really tight pruning, which is why I've got my smallest pruners here. So you can see how that's just going to open up that area. And then we have one that's right here that's really close to the main branch. We're going to clip that off. And this one is broken apparently, so we're going to clip this broken branch. Then we're going to come over here to this side and we're going to do a similar thing where we take some of these really small branches out, because we don't want it putting any energy into these tiny branches that really aren't going to be getting much light. And another way to do it is to come in here with your fingers when they're really this small and kind of pull them off. And some of this means that I'm going to get a little bit more light into the canopy as well, which is always a good thing. This year, because I don't want to take too much out, I'm really happy with the way this is growing on, and we'll just continue to watch it. If I see any awkward branches, I can still continue to prune it anytime during the year. All right, let's move on. So this viburnum still has its one flower on it that we had, and these are good shrubs to be able to prune after flowering. I'm really not worried about it being after flowering, given that there's only one flower. But anytime you have a flowering shrub, the easiest way to remember when is a good time to prune is to prune after it's done flowering. Okay, so what we're going to do today is just related to shaping and again opening up this canopy. I really want to train this into a small tree form because I don't want it to get too big and shrubby. It will get quite large. So I've seen some crossing branches in here, so we're going to get right down in towards the base. So one of the biggest problems that I have going on right now is these two branches right here crossing. You can see these are going to rub each other eventually, and I don't want that because that can cause entryways for disease. So I'm actually going to prune this main stem, which is a large one, all the way back down to here where it splits. I'm going to leave this small branch right now because I think it looks healthy. I have to squeeze pretty hard because I can't get my big loppers in this crevice, so I have to use these secateurs. Here we go. All right, now I'm going to pull it out from the top. If I can here. And we can see how this opens up the canopy. Another tip and trick as you're pruning something like this is to stand back, step out, and take a look to see how it's going. This gives you an opportunity to reassess your pruning and to think about what other branches may need to come out. So you can see now how open this is and how we are letting some light in to those understory plants. And that's a really nice way to ensure you can continue to have layers in your garden. This barberry is beautiful and I love the color that it brings to the garden. But I do want to keep it to the back. I want to limit up and have it growing up and then arching out. That way I continue to have the layers. I'll have a small tree form and I'll also continue to be able to have the plants that grow underneath it. So let's take a closer look at the way that the growth habit is on this bush. So what you can see here is quite a few shoots that are coming directly upwards, and I want to continue to have that upward height going on right now as opposed to the arching habit, because the arching habit is going to keep it really low and wide. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these arching branches and we're going to cut them back. And this one actually, I'm going to cut it all the way back down into where the stem comes out because it's just not necessary. So you can see how that actually brings the shrub back quite a bit. We're going to do that with a couple others here. Whoops. Now this one is a branch that's coming out from this, and I want to keep that branch and see what it looks like afterwards. So we'll just clip this one here, and then we'll get the one that's coming out from very low, and let's see how that looks. I'm liking this quite a bit, but there's a couple other small adjustments that I want to make. This one here that's coming straight out, so I'm just going to take this one back to where it meets the branch, and then this one is coming straight out. So I'm going to take that one back to where we have this upright branch. And then this one right here to another upright branch. And I think that'll do for now. We'll just let this keep growing on, and then next year or whenever else that I feel like it's growing outward instead of upward, I can continue to prune it back. So again, this helps to provide some additional air around this, preventing disease and allowing me to shape this bush into what I want it to look like. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this red bud is take and get rid of some of the dead wood. This did not grow back after it started putting on its new growth, so I'm just going to cut it all the way back to the main stem here. Now when you cut back to the main stem, you have two sides on your secateurs, one with the blade and the other one without. You want to get nice and close up against it, so you want to use the blade side up against. So I'm going to cut this way. You can see I cut it nice and close. Unfortunately, I also nicked the branch, but it's nothing bad. Now, while we're in here, we're just going to pull off this small branch because I don't want that. And then there's some undergrowth that's happening down here. And while I can use my secateurs to trim these off, I also find that while there's such green growth, you can just snip these off really easy with your fingers. Just pull them straight down. We're going to do that with some other branches that are up higher here real quick. And you also want to make sure that you don't have any branches again crossing over, so you can see these are growing towards each other. So I'm just going to kind of open this up here again by pulling some of this new growth off. Do one more down here. I think that will limit up really nicely. Turns out the tips on this were a little dead as well, so I'm taking those off. And then I'm just going to take these branches that are pointing right towards each other off here. And I'm going to take a couple more of these off. Right there. All right, that looks good. Let's move on. This is a crimson red Japanese maple, and it's absolutely beautiful. It has a very nice weeping habit and very fine foliage. But one of the things you can see is that it's growing this branch incredibly long, which is weeping really low. And I have some other branching in here that I want to try to shape up a little bit so that it continues to grow up and out and not just down. So let's start with this branch that's really weighted down. So there's a couple of options here. One, I could come in and I could cut it right back to here, and that would remove this entire branch and it would begin to continue to grow these shoots up. But what I want to do is, instead of just starting there, I'm going to start towards the end of the branch, and we're going to try to take it back and see how well lifting some of this weight off of the branch will lift the branch. So we're going to start here. You can see we have 3 downward facing branches right here. I'm going to take off the first 2, and actually I'm going to see if I can do it without my secateurs. So let's try to just peel these off, because sometimes that works better. Yep, hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So now you see it came up probably just a couple of inches. I think I'm going to take this branch and then this other one right here off as well, and we'll see what happens after that. I'm actually really pleased with how well that lifted. You can see the space now between the bird bath underneath of it and the branch. So that's awesome. I'm just going to leave that the way that it is now, and we'll see how it grows off. Now, if I need to at a later date, I can continue to prune it back to here or even to here where there's another branch that's meeting it. But for now, I like the way that it's growing, and we're gonna go with that. We also do have some limbs over here that are crossing. I kind of like this lower limb here, but we have one that's going over the top of it. So let's just pull that one out. And we'll do the same with the other one there. And that just kind of opens it up a little bit, creates an airiness and some space. So I think that's good for now. I like the way that it's looking. I like the structure. and I may come back to it a little bit later, but I like the way that it's growing in that kind of asymmetrical shape. All right, let's go do one more set of bushes, and we'll go do that real quick. This bush is called the Tianshan 7-Sun Flowering Bush. Proven Winners has a version of this. It's called the Temple of Bloom, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It has beautiful white flowers that turn a tint of pink and red or maroon as the seasons progress to fall. So we have a lot of new growth on this. It's really bushed out. And so what I want to do is do something similar to what I've done with the maple and viburnum, which is to take off some of those brand new shoots that are coming out right now so that the energy is being put into the shoots that I want to shape. Again, I want to utilize this as a small tree form. That's eventually what I want to get to. So we're going to start by going to the bottom and working our way up. All I'm going to do is similar to what you've seen me do before, which is just to take some of these branches, and because they're brand new with that green, really easy to pull off growth, I'm just going to take them right off using my fingers, which is the easiest way. This doesn't do any harm to the bush at all. Well, you'll see it's very dense in here, and I really need to get rid of some of these crossing branches. This one's coming right into the middle here. So is this one. I've got another one up here. So again, I'm starting from the bottom and the inside just to open it up. And then I'll be looking at shape after that. Okay, I like to see the trunk on these because they have very interesting exfoliating type of bark on these, which provides for winter interest. So this is getting pretty good here. Now I'm going to come in the front and do a couple more. What I want is to continue to have this grow up. I don't want people who are sitting in the chairs that are near these to getting poked in the eye by them. I just want them to provide a little bit of shade at certain points of the day. All right, one more over here. Now I'm just going to stand back and take a look at what I've got going on. You can see just how different this looks already, but I have some strong main branches that I want to keep growing up, and I've got some that are jutting out over this Rose of Sharon over here, but I want that Rose of Sharon to have plenty of room. So I'm actually going to take a few more off. And again, my favorite part about doing this time of year is that I can just use my fingers as the tool. And one more over here. Now you can see how that's creating that stronger upright growth. And we're going to do a little bit of that on the back side as well. So I'm just going to do the same thing over here with some of these that are jutting out in this direction. This is a really nice strong branch right here that I want to continue to send upwards. And we'll do a couple that are coming this direction, again, straight towards the people who are going to be sitting in a chair. By no means is this a final product, but I'm much happier with the way that this is growing in kind of an upright vase form. And I'm going to take out a couple more from the interior that are crossing over. Just to ensure we get plenty of light right down in the center of this. I love it. That's exactly what I want. It looks a lot thinner. I'm sure you can tell the difference though, and I'm just really pleased with the shape of it. So you can see just how incredibly full this particular one is, just like the other one. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one to shape it up and make sure that it's growing nice and upright. And then as it gets taller, I'll let it branch out further. So I hope you learned a little bit about shaping, pruning, and the different types of tools that you can use for actually doing some of this work. I think you'll find it really rewarding as you watch the shrubs grow into the shape that you want them to be. Thanks so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye!